Tonight, newly sworn in Bono minister accused of perjury and dissipation of public funds fights back with the backing of President Akufo-Addo.
You have to put behind you the controversy in Parliament. Work to shame those who oppose your appointment.
We'll hear from the minister herself. She's fighting back tonight, but the minority insists her case is still up for investigation by the Auditor General and they will never recognize her.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion is also brought to you by Gassim Cement, the nation builder, Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready, and Nationwide Health Insurance, your healthcare family. Now, this was President Akufo-Addo last night when he swore in the embattled Bono minister, Evelyn Ama Richardson.
Madam, we are relatively new acquaintances, but I've had good reports about you as Municipal Chief Executive in Sunyani, and there was a very important reason for making this appointment when the opportunity came. You have to put behind you the controversy in Parliament. Part of it is the work, that is how Parliament is. But you had a strong vote of approval. Stand on that and work to shame those who oppose your appointment. And then by your work too, those who supported your appointment will know that they did not support you in vain, and that that their confidence in you will be fully vindicated. You're entering our government more than halfway through its lifetime. But nevertheless, you're beginning something new. The old Bono Afro is no more. There's a new entity called Bone Region, just as Oti Region is a new concept in the governance of our nation. So you have the delicate task. You're coming into a government that's already in the ground, but at the same time you're about to do something new. It's because people believe you're capable of it that I've also selected you for that exercise.
Well, that's all that you had there, the president speaking about Evelyn Ama Richardson. She's the minister for Bono. She may have the president's confidence, but the NDC minority in parliament is tonight declaring that they will never recognize her following allegations of perjury and a pending Auditor General probe into claims that she dissipated $54,000 of public funds on a private trip to Canada when she was a municipal chief executive of the Sunyani metropolis. Now, in fact, Parliament delayed her approval for days, and it only took a secret ballot to have her approved. Now, Evelyn Ama Richardson's nomination was rejected by the minority over questions on her PhD qualification. Out of the 210 total votes cast in Parliament, and it's not often the Parliament resorts to secret ballots, but in this case, that's what it came down to. 124 voted to have her nomination approved, while 85 members of Parliament were against it. It is emerging tonight that some MPP majority members may have also voted against her nomination. We will explore that shortly. The president swore her in last night together with the minister for the Oti region, Kwesi Owusu-Yeboah. Well, tonight, as she takes office amidst the raging controversy, Mrs. Richardson has been fighting back. We'll hear from her shortly. So what really is the case against the Bono regional minister? My colleague, parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us in the studio with details of this. What were the issues against her, really? There are a number of them.
Yeah, so let me run through them briefly. The issue about her PhD, there were concerns that she had called herself a PhD holder when she actually got it from an institution that is not recognized to hold a PhD. That's one of the issues the minority raised when she appeared. The minority again claims, as you indicated, that she traveled on a foreign trip to Canada. Two allegations on that front: that she went against a directive from the chief of staff that she shouldn't go, And secondly, the minority claims that she spent money to the tune of $54,000 when it was actually a private trip and not exactly an official visit.
This last one you mentioned was based on an Auditor General query that had been raised by the Auditor General on this.
Exactly, and all of that is captured in the report of the parliamentary committee. We'll get into those details briefly. And then the two other allegations that were made against her was that she had committed perjury because the committee members claim she had come to tell them that she had declared her assets already, but from what the minority is saying, the evidence that she brought subsequently was that she had gone to do the asset declaration after she had appeared before the committee. So they say when she appeared before the committee and said she had declared her assets, she lied to the committee and committed perjury.
Okay, because when she appeared, instead of rightly approving her right after the meeting, which tends to happen, they delayed her appointment to allow her to bring back, and she brought those documents back.
So when the approval was done for all the other ministers and deputy ministers,
She was excluded.
She was excluded, and the explanation for that was that she had been asked to go bring documents to back some of the allegations that came up, including the audit report, the issues having to do with her PhD, and issues having to do with her asset declaration. And eventually, she brought those documents. We understand.
On
And
the
it's based on
asset
that-
declaration, the accusation is that she submitted a document that showed that the date of the asset being declared was post her appearance before the committee, which minority says that's perjury.
Yes, so that's the point that the minority is making, that before the committee, she said she had done it already, and then they said go bring evidence, and they say that the receipt for the asset declaration that she eventually brought had been dated post the time she appeared before the committee, and that's why they say it's perjury. And they make another allegation about perjury in connection with a claim having to do with lands in the Sunyani area that she said had been returned to the chiefs, but then the claim again at the level of the minority is that apparently it wasn't so. So she had some responses to that, and in fact, the parliamentary committee, the appointments committee, when it brought its report to the floor and indicated that they were recommending her approval based on the decision of the majority MPs, well, explain some of the issues, and we could run them briefly. For example, the issue having to do with her PhD certificate. The committee's report offered an explanation that this was something that was contained on her CV, this is something that previous media reports has quoted her as a PhD holder and referred to her as a doctor, but the CV she brought to Parliament did not have her holding herself as a PhD holder. And she had an explanation for that, there were issues about her doctorate degree that she had acquired, and that when it came up, she said that she had enrolled at a university, the Walbridge University in the Dominican Republic, which was using the Sunyani campus, which was using a campus in Sunyani as their local campus to pursue her doctorate degree. She started in 2012, she finished in 2016, and beyond that, she started holding herself out as a PhD holder. But what she realized was that she started, her attention was drawn to it, that the accreditation of the institution was in question. That's the Walbridge University in the Dominican Republic. And so she actually wrote to the National Accreditation Board asking that they evaluate the PhD. This was in 2017. She's not gotten a response from them yet. And that's how come she wasn't holding herself out as a PhD holder after her attention.
So that's a PhD
was
question,
actually drawn to it. But, well, the minority MPs claim that even after the said 2017 letter, when she hadn't gotten the feedback, she continued to hold herself as a PhD holder. And they quoted some media reports. Now the issue having to do with her trip to Canada. Now there were
Which is a substantive one.
Yes. Now the committee's report says that on whether she had responded to an audit query relating to her trip to Canada and her being asked to refund an amount of $54,773, the nominee answered and said that the audit query related to what they described as inappropriate attachments with the Sunyani Municipal Assembly had actually rectified, and that all the necessary documents had actually been submitted, and that the issue had been cleared up. And then they asked her to go bring what they call an audit clearance. And eventually, the committee actually wrote to the Auditor General seeking clarification on this, because the minority MPs had raised what has been described as a management letter raising the necessary queries. And then according to the committee, when they deliberated on the issue of that query that came up eventually, the Auditor General, in the letter to them as a committee, indicated that a management letter, which was the evidence that the minority was pointing to as having asked there to refund the $54,000, cannot be relied upon by Parliament because it's a query in progress, and that the Auditor General further told Parliament that in as much as the management letter may contain infractions, there remain observations in the management of the organization, and that the Auditor General, according to the report, had indicated that since the audit is still under investigation, he objects to the use of that particular audit to raise issues with her and her qualification. Okay. And it's based on that the committee says they decided that, the majority decided.
So bottom line on this claim of spending $54,000 plus to travel without approval and the Auditor General questioning, fundamentally, the Auditor General's point is that I am still investigating this and I haven't finished. And so you cannot make a definitive decision that she's indeed misapplied that money. And etc. So in other words, I'm still investigating.
I'm still investigating. And the substance of it is that the minority claims this visit was a private visit, which she claimed had to do with an official visit. Mm-hmm. And before the committee, she explained that, she had actually refunded portions of the money, because this is how it panned out. She explained that she had actually written to the chief of staff requesting for permission to travel. And the minority claims that the chief of staff declined the permission to travel, but she went ahead. And her explanation for that was that she actually had assumed that approval will be granted. And so while the time for the meeting involving the investors in Canada was approaching, she decided to leave even before the chief of staff responded.
Awaiting the approval.
Okay. Because she had been assured that the approval would be given, but eventually was declined. But she says the local government minister gave her the green light to go.
So she herself has been speaking to this, but let's bring in the Samuel Kudeta Blakwa, who is a ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Joins us on the telephone line right now. We'll also be speaking shortly because the governance issues that have been raised as well with the president of Imani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, who joins us on the line as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Kudeta Blakwa, for your time here on Top Story. From the committee's report that we've just read, though, Mr. Kudeta Blakwa, it's clear from at least the report that on the subject, for say, of the Auditor General's report, nothing is concluded yet. It's still investigations that is ongoing, and so isn't there not enough basis to reject her nomination just on the say so of some, in the works investigations?
Well, thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to you, and good evening to all our distinguished listeners. I think that it is important for us to proceed by establishing some principles. First of all, the process of vetting. We need to be guided that in all jurisdictions, vetting is a serious exercise. You are looking at the person's eligibility as per the Constitution, as per the standing orders of Parliament. You are also looking at the person's suitability when it comes to matters to do with integrity, matters to do with people who have a track record that is laudable, that is worthy, that should earn them a pass. So the vetting processes in every jurisdiction is not just a mere formality where it doesn't matter a person's track record. And it is the reason why our standing orders mandate that before we vet anybody, we should put out a notice to the general public so that those who know the person, those who may have worked with the person, those who may have acquainted with the person, can submit to Parliament reports, information on the person. So the work we do in Parliament is a serious exercise. That is our understanding. Reading the Constitution, reading our standing orders, and following conventions and practices all over the world, including our own traditions. For this particular nominee who appeared before us on the 20th of March 2019, the question we should be asking ourselves, why is it that all the others, there are about 21 others, we took no issue, they all went through successfully. Why is it that this nominee alone has been hanging all these weeks? It is because there were so many previous matters, which we cannot gloss over. The matter to do with the audit queries that were raised. I mean, she herself admits that one, you travel without the authorization of the Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff had written expressly asking you not to travel, declining permission to travel. I mean, that is why I was sad when I heard the president say that, I have confidence in you, go and prove your critics wrong. What example is the president making of this situation? What will other ministers who want to defy the Chief of Staff, and that means defying the president, what do they learn from this? Now, you defy the Chief of Staff, and we adduce all these letters at the vetting. Then you embark on clearly a private trip to a Rotary event because you're a Rotary member and you know that the state cannot pay for that. Then you attach an initial letter which says that you are going to pursue a sister city arrangement. You are going for a meeting that will discuss a sister city agreement with the Sunyani municipality, and this is Nanaimo and Sunyani. Now, the auditors said that you could not produce any agreement or any MOU that there is such a sister city agreement. So, you know what she told us? She says, it was a wrong attachment. I went to meet investors, and so the auditors have even cleared me. This is what she said on oath.
But the Auditor General, according to the committee's report, says that there's nothing conclusive about its own work, which is still in progress.
Yes, so the Auditor General contradicts her. She told us at committee that she had been cleared, and the Auditor General had given her a clean bill of health, that all the edit queries are no more, that she has been cleared. These were exact words. And during the debate in Parliament, we quoted her exact words. We had the verbatim report from her appearance before us. Now, you say you have been cleared. When we ask you, that is why we put her decision on hold. Decision on her was put on hold because we asked her to produce the final audit report which clears her. And then we wrote to the Auditor General. The Auditor General then replies us on the 28th of March this year that no, it's work in progress. We have not cleared her. That is why during the debate, we appealed to Mr. Speaker and our colleagues on the majority side that please, why the rush? Let's hold on. Let's wait for what the final audit report will be, because these are major issues that have been raised by the auditors. She has not been cleared. She has committed perjury.
In fact, on that question of perjury, you also cite the question she was asked about her asset declaration, and I'm yet to see the documentation. But from the report that I've seen from Parliament, there's a suggestion that she produced, when she was actually produced the evidence of her declaring an asset, she produced a document that is dated post her appearance before you. Is that accurate? And where's the document?
That was another case of perjury. She told us that she had declared her assets. You know, Article 94 of the Constitution is very clear about that. She was asked then to present evidence. Because when you declare your assets, the Auditor General will give you a receipt, evidence of that declaration having been done. Guess what? She tenders some DNI document. And we told her that, I mean, clearly that cannot be asset declaration. So that was the second case of perjury. There was a third case of perjury where she said that the land that was being used by the abattoir operators in Sunyani, the butchers, the chiefs had expressed interest in the land, and she had handed over the land to the chiefs, to Nananum, in the Bono Ahafo region. It turns out that land is vested land, and that land was rather sold by her for 300,000 Ghana cedis.
And the evidence of this is, when you say turns out,
it turns out the evidence as we adduce at the appointments committee was from the finance committee of the Sunyani municipality, which gave us evidence, including receipts, and her own report to the assembly proves that that land was sold for 300,000 cedis.
And the money used for what? For the purposes of the Sunyani municipality, correct?
These are matters we are still pursuing. Even who it was sold to, it's now a matter of controversy. So this is a nominee that has so many questions.
Well, she's been answering some of these questions herself today. She starts work today. She was sworn in yesterday. I want you to listen to her. This is what she told us a short while ago.
The government wants to bring development very close to its people. And so we have to make sure that whatever that we get in our region, we make sure we deliver and then get our people to feel that this regional reorganization has been beneficial to them.
The president yesterday was quite clear as far as his confidence in you is concerned, and that he has absolute confidence in your ability to lead his development agenda in the Bono region. But for some, especially on the NDC minority, they think that the matters that he raised at the vetting are still unresolved matters. Do you feel that same way? The PhD issue, the expenditure issue, as you take office, do you feel that you have something hanging around your neck that must be dealt with? Or
no, the matter has been duly resolved. Seriously, I think when the Auditor General brought his report, they realized that they had no case. And apart from that one, the PhD, I really went to the school. I really took up the program. And everybody in Sunyani will testify to, even including my institution, my former institution. And so if I had gone through that program and then you say the institution is not accredited, I don't think that it's not my fault. You remember even the majority leader, the chairman of the committee, he said that in 2016 thereabouts, that was when they came up with that decision that they would not give accreditation to that institution. And so that's the reason why I did not even put it on my CV. You understand? And at that time, I had almost completed the program. So I said, okay, let me just finish. I completed, and I went for my graduation and everything. And so if I have embarked on a program and he says that you not give it accreditation, I don't think that, and I've never used it anywhere that, the title doctor or whatever. But people who saw me going through that program, when I came back from my graduation, started calling me doctor, and, I couldn't have just said, don't call me this, do that, because I had submitted my certificate for evaluation at the National Accreditation. So there's no issue about that.
But you are heading a region that obviously has people from both sides of the political divide. Will this in any way reflect in the way you handle matters at the regional administration?
Come again.
No, I'm asking, you are now the regional minister and you are supervising a region which is composed of people from different political divide. Looking at how the minority rejected your nomination, would that in any way affect your dealings with people from that political divide in the region?
Not at all. Now that I've been confirmed, I've been sworn in and I'm the regional minister, I am supposed to serve the good people of the region, and that's all. There wouldn't be any discrimination.
So that is a Bono Regional Minister, Evelyn Ama Richardson. Could you talk about question on the line? Could you hold on the line for me briefly? Let me bring in Franklin Cudjoe, who's been on the line for a while. Mr. Cudjoe, apologies there, but we just listened to the woman herself. We've listened to the allegations against her. Where do you stand on her, on the president's faith in her? The president has a lot of confidence in her. Is that a justified level of confidence?
Well, it appears as if he's the only one who could actually be nominated or be appointed. Because if all that we've heard so far is to be believed, I'm a bit stretched to think that the president probably doesn't have anybody else from that region to represent him at all. I mean, that's the only thing that I can say right now, because it's very dramatic. I mean, things our colleagues and peers do in other parts of the world where you'd even resign before you even thought about taking up a position. I mean, if the sounds we are hearing, the processes we are hearing were all truncated in the manner, or not truncated, but were actually abused, I really think the president has too much faith in her, and it tells me that there's probably nobody else who can represent the new regime than this other person. That's all I've got to say.
And there's some governance issues here. I mean, if the Auditor General says, I'm still investigating here, I'm not done, you can use my queries to hang her, but I'm still investigating. Should an individual with that sort of investigation from an Auditor General hanging over her be approved and sworn into office?
Well, that's even a minor issue, isn't it? But ordinarily, they shouldn't have gone through the process. They could have waited for a while. But the other very worrying ones are the ones that have to do with traveling out of jurisdiction without permission and then actually using funds, public funds, to pursue a personal agenda. And of course, the other ones that have to do with the academic qualifications. And I think the assets declaration as well, these are all matters that do not seem to be quite normal for somebody who wants to occupy such a high office. I would think that if it is not for the sheer bravado of politics, I think she herself should probably not be considering taking the position. But it looks to me that the reason why the president has so much faith in her, possibly because he's telling us that there's no other competent person that can be appointed as a minister.
So can anything be done now if really anybody has genuine concerns? She's been sworn in. She's been approved by Parliament. It's fait accompli.
Well, that's the way it sounds. That's the way it looks. Unless, of course, the minority or any other interested person outside of Parliament is interested in challenging the position. I would not, because I think it would be a fruitless exercise. But I think that it doesn't speak well of the office of the president, and I really do not understand if the president has the full facts before making the decision. As I said, it may only appear as if there's no other person who can do the president's bidding in that region apart from this lady. This is not chauvinism, but I think that it's important to make certain fundamental comments about this matter. These are issues about ethics of the office, and if indeed in the previously held public office there's such flagrant abuse of the public trust, then I really wonder why we should even be discussing this matter. Ordinarily, it shouldn't even happen.
I'm grateful, Franklin Cudjoe, the president of Imani Africa. Samokudu Tablakwa, so you've raised questions about perjury, which is a serious allegation to make. What is it that a minority intend to do with all the serious allegations that you put up against her? We just heard her. According to her herself, there's nothing against her. She's been cleared. You say she still has a lot of questions to answer, including the criminal charge of perjury. What is the minority prepared to do about this?
Unfortunately, you'll recall that we took the vote just a few hours before we went on recess. And so Parliament is on break at the moment. But these are matters we have been discussing as a caucus on the way forward. And let me also stress that if you look at the vote, this matter is being presented as though it's just, the usual partisan NPP, NDC minority majority. If you look at the votes critically, we had some members on the majority side who voted with us, who voted according to their conscience.
Because I understand there were 80 of you and she got 85 against her. Is that why you're saying that?
Exactly. By the time it was time for voting, and we all wrote down our names to know how many of us, the majority chief whip, the Honorable Muntaka, did the count. We were 80. And yet, if you look at the final votes as announced by the speaker, it was 85 against her, 85 to 124. So it tells you that at least 5 members, that if you take it that everybody on the minority side voted against her nomination, at least 5 members on the majority side voted against.
It could also mean that It could also mean that, let's say, 75 of you voted against her, and 10 from the other side.
Exactly.
So it could also mean that some of your members may also have voted for her.
Exactly. And that is why I'm saying that let us not see this matter as just, the everyday NPP, NDC matter. No. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the issues. Look, we are all committed to having more women come into executive office. And I said during the debate that I would have wished that the president appointed more women. And there were other women who we did not take issues
Mr. Blaka, just for the sake of time, has the minority decided what to do about this now?
We have not decided conclusively, but I can tell you that this matter is not dead. It is alive. When we go into caucus, we will decide what will be done when we return from recess. Mind you, the Auditor General is still looking into this matter, and the issues that have been raised, including the matter to do with her PhD, the circumstances under which she held herself. If you Google, as recent as 14th August 2018, when she addressed a press conference as Dean of all MMDCs in the Brong-Ahafo region to ostensibly congratulate the Honorable Asuma Chireme, who had been appointed Lands and Natural Resources Minister, their regional minister. She held herself out as a doctor.
Well,
so when she says that she has never used the title, you see, that is honest.
Well, and we'll wait to see what the decision of the minority is on this, and the Auditor General's own final report into the allegations that she dissipated public funds in that private trip to Canada. Newsnight starts right now.